What's going on, family? It's the entertainer, motivator, educator, Lucky Murray, back with the Hoop Council. It is my basketball podcast that I will bring it to my main channel starting. I'm going to try to release it every Monday, but we're going to talk basketball. And this is where we're going to talk about certain things that are happening in the basketball world and culture. If you like what you see, man, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. My Gamecock, my Cocky Report, that's all South Carolina, is coming out tomorrow as well. So, with the new format, new show, basketball coach, so I felt it's important for me to talk basketball and talk about the current stories and the visions of basketball. If you got anything you want to comment on the comment section, and I will either address it at the next podcast, or here's what I do. I will definitely get to it in the comment section. So subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. But there's a lot of basketball that's happening. Last night we crowned the men's college champion, and that was the UConn Huskies. They defeated Purdue. Was it 73-60? Even though Zach, Edney had like 37 and 10. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about John Calipari, who left Kentucky on blue blood to go to Arkansas, at all places. We'll talk about why I think that as well. We'll touch on some of the top players in South Carolina according to Prep Hoops. We also talk about the NBA play-in tournament that's happening next week. It's pretty much a lock right now, and we'll talk about the format and all that good stuff. And anything else you want to talk about, write in the comment section below. So let's start off this real simple as we going to put it. Now let's talk a little bit about the NBA play-in tournament. If you don't know, the play-in tournament extended the playoffs. It's not technically a playoff. It's still a part of the regular season, but the ninth and the 10th seeds have an opportunity to play their way into the playoffs by either getting the 7th seed or the 8th seed. Typically, if you are the 9th, 10th seed, you have an opportunity just to get the 8th seed. If you're 8th and 7th, I think you fight it out for the 7th seed. So we're going to look at how the format is, because I know some people don't necessarily know how the play works. We're going to talk about the teams that are currently in there and talk about what I think is going to happen in the NBA. I know, like college basketball, where you don't necessarily know who's going to win. There's a lot of parity in the sport of college basketball, except for the past 2 years where UConn won both of the national championships. In the NBA, you got maybe 4 teams that really have a shot of winning the NBA title. Everybody else is kind of fighting for the scraps, right? There has never been a team that surprised anybody that came out of nowhere to win, because in the NBA, it's simply hard to beat a team 7 games, 4 games out of 7, right? So let's sit down. Let's talk about the play-in tournament, shall we? I'm sorry, guys. Boom. Okay. Play-in tournament. There we go. There we go. So right now, what we got right now is the play-in, right? As you guys see, the 9th and the 10th seed plays the loser of the 7th and 8th seed. And the 7th and 8th seed get to play. They pretty much get to play for that 7th seed. So if you're the 8th seed, you may really want to be in that 7th seed, because that means that you don't have to face the number 1 seed in that conference. And right now, I think number 1 seed in that conference is Oklahoma. I have to look at my math and kind of see. So the 8th seed, I think those teams want to avoid the Nuggets by any means necessary. So the 8th seed may be a good pick for somebody. The 7th seed, I think you're playing against either Minnesota or the Timberwolves. Excuse me, Minnesota or the Nuggets. So we'll look at that in a second. So the 9th seed play the 10th seed, right? And the winner out of that game goes into the 8th seed game, right? So the loser of the 7th and 8th plays the winner of the 9th and 10th. And that determines the 8th seed. So essentially, you can be the 7th seed and lose 2 games in a row and be out the playoffs. It's crazy. I like the fact that it does add some suspense to the league. And time past, there were teams that were like this year. The ninth and the 10th team in the West are, I think, about 9 to 10 games over 500. And a lot of times, what happens was those teams did not necessarily get an opportunity to make the playoffs because that if you didn't get the eighth seed, you weren't getting in. But does this diminish? I'm saying the word wrong. But does this allow the regular season to be for naught because you play 82 games to get your seeding, and you have to play at least one more to solidify your spot. It's either here or there, but I think the NBA especially want to create as much buzz as possible, and they can sell the play-in tournament, right? The play-in tournament has been a big thing, just like the in-season tournament. I thought it was cool, but it's becoming a big thing, right? So so here's the reading. We're gonna read it real quick. The play-in tournament takes place next Tuesday, April 16th through Friday, April 19th. So not next week, in 2 weeks. I think it's about next week. Yeah, next week. With the games played after the regular season concludes and before the first round of the NBA playoffs begins. Right? How does it work? I kind of said it. The teams finish number 1 through 6 standings of each conference are guaranteed a playoff spot. So if you 1 through 6, you're locked in. You don't have to fool with this playing nonsense. The team that finished 7th through 10th in the standings will enter the play-in tournament. Teams will battle for the 7th and 8th playoff seed, right? So basically, the 7th and 8th team play for the 7th seed, and like I explained earlier, if the regular season ends now, I think that this is probably going to be the standards it's going to be. So the 7th and 8th seed is the Kings and the Pelicans, right? One of those two teams is going to win, right? And then there's going to be the Lakers and the Warriors, which I do like that matchup to say the least. This is a do or die game, right? The Lakers lose this, they're out. They don't even get to sniff the playoffs. So the 9th and 10th, you got to win 2 games, which is, it can be grueling, especially when you're going into a matchup with the number 1 team in the conference. So that's a little bit more compelling, to say the least. I think that if the Pelicans or the Kings drop down to play that night, I think one of those 7 to 8 spots are going to be taken, right? And I think it's going to be taken by either the 9th place Lakers or the 10th place Warriors, right? The Eastern Conference, right? The 76ers, to me, they're not a true 7 seed because Embiid been hurt all year and he's just got healthy. And the Heat is a very dangerous team too. They've been riddled with injuries as well. And the Bulls and the Hawks, I'm not afraid of none of those teams too. In the West, like I said, I do think that either the Lakers or the Warriors will make it to the playoffs. Uh, Man, listen, it's like the Hunger Games right here, man. Shoot, somebody got to get eliminated. And the Pelicans, like I said, I like the Pelicans, but if the Kings, let's say the Kings play the Warriors, or let's say the Kings play the Lakers, I think that they like those matchups right there. So I think that somebody's coming out to play in the 9th and the 10th seed, they're going to get a playoff spot. Out the East, I'm not scared of the Hawks nor the Bulls as well. So I think the 7 to 8 seed is safe in that particular predicament as well. So let's go to the standings. The standings, shall we? I just had the standings, I'm sorry. The standings, right? Here's where we're going to go right now. The first seed is the Celtics, which best team in basketball. Milwaukee Bucks is number 2. Nobody's afraid of the Milwaukee Bucks. And that clown show, as far as Doc Rivers and everything they got going on right there, nobody's afraid of them. The Orlando Magic is a surprise team that came up this year, held strong, the top 4 seed in the East, and it gives me hope for my Charlotte Hornets. The 4th seed is the New York Knicks after losing Julius Randle, but still they holding it strong on the 4th seed. The 5th seed is the Cleveland Cavaliers with Donovan Mitchell and the boys up there. The 6th seed is Indiana Pacers with Tyree Halliburton. That's good right there. 7th seed, like I said, to me, that's not a true 7th seed right there. So the matchup right now, right there, if Philadelphia stays where they are, which I think they will, or they may fluctuate, right? You have a Milwaukee Bucks versus the 76ers in the first round. I smell an upset, even though it's not a technically upset, but that's a crazy game. I do think that Boston wants to see Miami. I don't think they want to see the 76ers in the first round of the playoffs. Because that may, I'm not saying they will, but that could mean trouble, especially if Embiid gets healthy and gets cooking. Even though I think Boston is the better team, I do think that Philadelphia matchup better. I think if Philadelphia wins that it gets that matchup, they want the 7th seed. You want Milwaukee, get them while they're going, and that way you don't have to play Boston until theoretically the Eastern Conference Finals. Because I think that once you get past the Milwaukee Bucks, I think the third or the fifth and sixth seed, I think that's who you play. So either you play the Cavaliers or the Pacers, I think, the winner of that matchup, and then you're on your way to the Eastern Conference Finals without James Harden. I think that's a good look for that as well. So all these teams have been eliminated: the Brooklyn Nets, Toronto Raptors, the Charlotte Hornets, Washington Wizards, and the Detroit Pistons. They've been eliminated. Let's go to the Western Conference, shall we? Minnesota Timberwolves, my boy Ant, got the best record in the NBA. And like I said, I thought it was OKC, so my apologies. Not OKC. They were #1 for a while, but they're very, very close. So they got a few more games left to go. So the #1, 2, and 3 can switch up. The second is the Denver Nuggets. No matter what Denver Nuggets are, they still gonna beast. That's a juggernaut to face himself. The Joker is the reigning MVP, and not the reigning MVP. 3 MVPs in 4 years. So that's gonna look good. Oklahoma City Thunder. Whew. Shea got them boys looking good, but they still young with Chat Holmgren and all them boys right there, and J Dub. So I expect, but that's going to be a tough out right there. Los Angeles Clippers, not afraid of them. The Dallas Mavericks, not afraid of them either. The Phoenix Suns, not afraid of them. Here's the interesting point, right? And we're looking at the 7 and the 8 seed. Let's look at the numbers: 46 and 32. If Phoenix lose any more games, they're in trouble of getting into the play-in tournament. You don't want to go in the play-in tournament because now if they lose that first game, then they have to win a do or die game to make the 8th seed. And they're playing against Minnesota Timberwolves. And with the injury histories that they have for the Suns, and they don't have no bench, they need to stay in that 6th spot. But they're 46 and 32. Tied for that same spot is the New Orleans Pelicans, which is 46 and 32. New Orleans don't want nothing to do with that play-in, right? They don't want nothing to do with that play-in because they could get eliminated after having a really, really good season. And the Sacramento Kings is 45 and 33. And then you got the Lakers, who's right there at that 8th period right there. I think if I was the Lakers or the Warriors, I would want to get in that 7th, 8th game because you only got to win one and you ain't got to worry about it, right? You can just take care of business and go to the crib, and you get the 7th seed, and you get to play. Well, the Nuggets still stay there. I don't want to play the Nuggets. so the Lakers may want to just kind of hold off real quick. I mean, you want to win again into playoffs, and just the Lakers should match up with the Nuggets. However, it's always a toss-up. Anthony Davis is a toss-up with there. LeBron James, I mean, you know what you're going to get with him, but he's 21st season. Anything go wrong, he get an injury, and that could end your season right there. But piling out at number 10 is the Golden State Warriors, which is probably one of my favorite teams other than the Hornets. I root for them boys, even though I don't think they're going to win the ship this year. But you never can count on the heart of the champion. They're just a little too small. And if Draymond Green can keep his energy down. So that is the NBA play-in tournament. It'll be happening next week. So we'll do a little bit of covering of that as well, to say the least. Let's talk about this story real quick, man. John Calipari. Real quick. Right? You like my background? Love my background, right? Love my background. So here we go. All right. So the thing I'm going to say is this, and this is simple. Let me make myself smaller, guys. I gotta make myself smaller. I'm doing this on the fly. Boom, there we go. All right, there we go. Here's one thing I'm gonna say, right? And I think that college basketball, in a sense, is going in a much difficult place. College sports in general, but read between the lines when John Calipari, which is one of the pioneers of the one and done era. If you don't know, the one and done era was when the NBA implemented the 1 year removed from high school rule. I think in 2000, shoot, it had to be right after Dwight. I think 05 or 06, something like that, where high school players had to be at least 1 year removed for or out of high school graduation in order for them to be eligible for the NBA draft. Ever since then, a lot of teams in college basketball were putting high priorities on talented freshmen, bring them in, play them 1 year, and send them off to college. College basketball is no longer a freshman oriented place. It is a place where grown men are playing. When I say grown men, I mean like 23, 24 year olds. And that is who college basketball teams are going after. They're not going after the 18-year-old kid that needs a couple of seasons, that needs some work. He's talented, but it's going to take him at least 2 years to get right. They're going after the 22-year-old that's been playing college basketball for 2 or 3 years, who already knows what he is, already know what he is as a player, knows what he brings to the table, and you know as a coach what you need, and you can just pick them off. So the pecking order right now, and I tell a lot of my players who I coach, the pecking order for this particular era is first you go to transfer guys, JUCO guys, prep guys, and then high school seniors. Good news for smaller schools who may not get those big names, still have a lot of opportunity to get some names that they wouldn't have got 4 or 5 years ago, but because NIL and because the way college basketball going, they can offer these players. So a lot of your smaller D1s, the D2s, the D3s, the NAIAs, right, the JUCOs. So when you see John Calipari leaving to go to Arkansas, the first thing for me is like, why? Why would you go from Kentucky? And all my life, Kentucky has always been a blue blood, quote unquote. They didn't get back to Kentucky for me until John Calipari took the job over in 2012, right? Before 2012, the last time Kentucky had won a college championship, no, he did take over in 2012. Excuse me, that's when he won a national championship. I think he took over in 2009. We'll review that in just a second. But the last time that Kentucky won a national championship before 2012 was in 1996 with Rick Pitino. So from 1996 to 2012, and those years in between, they was not Kentucky until John Calipari came and consistently made them a top 10 team every single year. John Calipari could recruit his butt off. He can get the stars in. But because of the changing landscape of college basketball, you're no longer dependent on freshmen to come in and kind of carry the weight. Look at how UConn is being built. Transfer guys all day long, building them within the system. I tell players that learn how to play a system. That's what I tell them. However, we're going to just discuss that. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, man, because I think that is very, very, very interesting to say the least. So let's go back here. Let's go to John Calipari, right? We're going to read it. Hall of Fame men's college basketball coach John Calipari is finalizing a deal to leave Kentucky for Arkansas. He already did. He led the Wildcats to 7 Elite Eights, 4 Final Fours, and the 2012 National Championship, right? Calipari, 65, good Lord, is 410 and 123 over 15 seasons in Lexington. He was under contract through 28-29 season, but will not owe the program a buyout for leaving early. He would have been owed $33 million if he was fired by the university. Man, listen, ain't that good job security, guys? Wouldn't you want to be fired and get paid $33 million? And you know what he gonna do. You know what he gonna do. If he would have got fired, he would have been a NBA analyst, no, excuse me, a college basketball analyst, or he would have been around, been a private consultant for different college basketball programs. This dude is set for the rest of his life, right? And this is a big spill of mine, how people think that basketball coaches make all this money. No, it's the top 1%ers, right? It's the basketball coaches that are in, college, and not all of college, but that's some D1 lower major guys making, $75K to $100K. You know what I'm saying? That's great money compared to a high school coach that in the state of South Carolina, you probably making $60K, if that, and you're being a teacher. So I'm going off my soapbox, keep going. The former Arkansas coach Eric Musselman left the same role at USC. That's Southern California, not South Carolina. This week, right? Calipari, a three-time Naismith College Coach of the Year, has come under scrutiny in the recent years. Kentucky lost to number 14 seed Oakland in the first round of the 24 NCAA tournament and has failed to reach the postseason second weekend since 2019. The Wildcats' last SEC title was in 2020, right? Kentucky currently boasts the number 2 recruiting class in 2024 class, according to 24/7 Sports. It's unclear whether these players will stay with the Wildcats following Calipari's departure. They not. Let's list all the players who played for Coach Calipari. DeMarcus Cousins, Patrick Peterson, Eric Bledsoe, Daniel Orton. Don't know who Daniel. I think that all these players turn out really be well, really good players. And that's in 2010, right? No, 2010 and John Wall, right? That's his first year there. John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, Patrick Peterson, Eric Bledsoe, right? 2011, Enes Kanter, Brandon Knight, Josh Harrison, DeAndre Liggins, right? All, the players to play. These two right here. Enes Kanter had a pretty solid career. Brandon Knight had a pretty solid career as well. He played for the Hornets for a while, the Bobcats actually. This is the team that won the national championship. Anthony Davis, Michael Kidd-Gris, who played for the Hornets. Terrence Jones, Marquise Teague. I think that's Jeff Teague's brother, right? Deron Lamb, Darius Miller, 2013. Noel, Archie Goodwin, 2014. Julius Randle, James Young. That's all they got right now? That's crazy. And he had some more come from there since then. But these are the players that they got right now. Hold on, let me see if they got some more. All right, that's it. So, thought process is simple, man. Thought process is simple. Look for this coming. I think that he's going to recruit a little bit differently, but it's not as much pressure to. He could do that in Arkansas and they'll be a top 10 team. He's still in the SEC. So I think that a lot of those guys going to go down to Arkansas with them, play, and he's going to get that program right. But I think that he's going to have to mix some with the transfer portal guys to kind of to make a complete team. But even if he just continue to do what he does, you got beat by Oakland, the top, number 14 ranked team, but still yet that was an older team, and it's hard to tell freshmen to come in and play big roles when they have never done that before in their lives. So big ups to Calipari and what that does there, but it's looming for what college basketball is all about, man. So let's real quick, man. Let's look at his before we leave off of Calipari. Let's look at his stats, man, at UK. He was at 2009 to 2024. His 42 and 123, like I said. He won one national championship. Should he won more championship? Yeah, I think so. But still, 4 Final Fours: 2011, 2012, 2014, 2015. NCAA tournament appearances: 12. Listen, at South Carolina, which is my favorite team, my favorite school. If we went to 12 NCAA tournaments out of 15 years, what's the big issue about? He's taking us to the promised land every year. We're getting NBA caliber players every single year. We're drafting them out. Our brand is nationwide. You know what I'm saying? People want to come to Lexington, Kentucky because of what we got going on, right? What are you crying about? What are you crying about? What are you crying about? What he did before he coached at Kentucky, right? He played basketball at North Carolina, Wilmington, and Clarendon. Coach at UMass and Memphis at the college level, and the New Jersey Nets in the NBA. His college career overall is 813 and 261. He additional 42 wins and 2 losses were vacated to the NCAA due to rule violations. Hometown is Moon Township, Pennsylvania, right? So he went from Kansas assistant, Pittsburgh as assistant, Massachusetts as the head coach, New Jersey Nets as the head coach, Philadelphia 76ers as assistant, Memphis from 2000-2009 as a head coach, Kentucky, and then Arkansas. Yeah, he gonna get them boys right, man. He gonna get them boys right. So let's talk about this real quick, man. We're getting more into the high school basketball situation, but I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about who job are you taking? The one and done era, right? To players, and this is Brian Thomas II. He's a YouTuber who, former collegiate athlete, kind of gives insight to the game or whatever. I follow his page when he talks about certain things like that. But he says the one and done era. Players, parents, and coaches should reevaluate adopting a one and done mindset after leaving high school. John Calipari's departure from Kentucky signifies, a shift from the OAD era that he himself popularized, that we talked about earlier. The emergence of the transfer portal and the notable success of older transfers is making it increasingly difficult for incoming freshmen seeking to make an immediate impact. It's not happening. It's not happening the way it used to 10 years ago. Let's keep following that. In the NBA, a narrow window for player development means that within 2 to 3 years, an individual risks being edged out by the intense competition and increased talent at the highest level. Again, every single year in the NBA, there's a younger, stronger, faster player that will eventually take your position if you don't know your role and if you cannot adapt. And that is saying something seriously. There's a reason why a lot of these not number one picks, but these first round picks and second round picks are spending the majority of their first year, second year in the G League. Let's keep going. Um, Opting to remain in college offers the opportunity for compensation through NIL. That's big, which I think they're going to change that. And a more conducive environment for patient growth. Though not too patient due to the transfer portal. I think that you should give it 1 to 2 years. I think a strong 2 to 3, right? It just depends on the situation with the NIL and also with the transfer portal. You may stick it out. That player may transfer the next year at your position, giving you the opportunity at first dibs at that job, right? If that's a coach that know you, yes, they bring somebody in, but you have the first dib to go and fight it. The problem is, are you going to fight for your job? Let's keep reading. In sports, unlike other industries, you must compete for someone else's position in order to secure your own. Players, parents, and the circles should really think about this. At 18 years old, will I be able to enter college, beat out a 22, 23-year-old? Probably not. Teammate and then dominate the competition? Probably not. At 19, whose job am I taking in the NBA? Try to be specific. Having these realistic conversations can help players make decisions that would benefit them in the long run instead of the short-term gratification. That's why you're seeing a lot of guys go to the transfer portal, go to the transfer portal, go to the transfer portal. They're lacking the opportunity to develop their game, and they're lacking the ability to have patience, right? So you see this. So this is the one thing I want to talk about real quick, man. The one and done era is done, but can we move forward? Can we do something different? I think we can, to say the least. So before I leave, man, the hoop council, I want to talk a little bit about the prep hoops ranking for the class of 2025, right? We're going to go with the top 10, and I'll follow these players. If this is the South Carolina course, I think that on the next one, I'm probably going to do the ESPN Top 100, but this is my state, so this is according to the top 10 list. Right now, Jordan Wofford, he plays for Lancaster. Uh, he's the number one player overall according to Prep Hoops, 6'4", combo guard. That's a pretty good size. Hayden Hasman, I think that's how you say his name. He goes to Powderville, led them to a state championship this year. Big boy. I went down there and saw them actually beat Darlington down in Florence. Man, I went down there, rented a hotel room, watched a lot of high school basketball that day. That was very solid. Trayvon Maddox from Gray Collegiate. He's on Team Curry. Doesn't have a scholarship yet, and this kind of worries me some. We keep going. Number 4 is Robert Moore from Porter, 6'7" as well. 5 is Caleb Evans, 6'3" from Lexington. 6 is Tristan Thompson, 6'5", shooting small forward from Wilson. 7 is Melvin Till Jr. for Somerville, 6'3". 8 is LJ Brett, 6'3", Gray Collegiate. 9 is Franklin. I can't say his first name. 6'4" from Wren. And 10 is Tion Tyndale, 6'8" from Crestwood. And the club, we got Evan, the upstate guys. Mari Anderson, I like Amari Anderson, 6'2" point guard from Greer. So a lot of these players will probably have scholarships availability soon. But we'll keep you posted on that. And one last thing. If you like the Hoop Council, please subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the channel, and also, man, if you like this long form, this is how I'm hitting you. I'm hitting you like this in the head every single week. So once again, it's the entertainer, motivator, educator, Lucky Murray with the Hoop Council podcast. Just talking hoops and sports. But y'all let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Like always, until next time, people.